Welcome everyone to the 10,000 Things Zoom for July 24th, 2018. These meetings began last December when I was invited to take questions from a Douglas Harding group. People were all reading my book, and that was a great experience. So I just have continued with it every few weeks or so. I've done a meeting to speak with readers about my book and about any questions they have. If you're just here for the first time, perhaps you came across this program on YouTube. I'm going to read a short excerpt from a recent review of the book, and then we'll get into the meeting. The review says, this book calls forth such a breath of fresh air within the spiritual, non-dual New Age circuit. Robert Saltzman has such a way of cutting through the magical thinking and hypnotic trance that we call awakening or enlightenment. For me, this book really stopped me in my tracks after over 20 years or so of exploring awakening, both in a process psychotherapy model and non-duality. Robert's book took me into free fall for a while. The seeker had nowhere to go, no path, no answers to find, no teacher who got it. Each page has a way of turning things upside down, nowhere to escape from the vulnerability of old age, dying, uncertainty of why we're here or what this is all about. If you want to cut through the illusions of the belief systems in the spiritual world, then this is a book for you. Well, I really like that review because it mentions magical thinking and the hypnotic trance. And those are really the key elements of the 10,000 Things perspective. We're put into a hypnotic trance at an early age, culturally. We are encouraged to become a person and to perfect that. And that unless we do perfect being a person, our lives are a failure. And for many of us, we begin to feel how unsatisfactory that really is. Not only is the person aging and mortal, and certainly can't be around forever, we know that, but even in our day-to-day interactions with the world, we find that being a person is not all it's cracked up to be. We are constantly being judged and judging ourselves and judging others when we think of myself as this person who must somehow win or succeed. I'm so happy to have a couple of dear friends here today. One is John Troy, whom you, if you've been attending past meetings, you've heard from John. And the other is Sudamo Bhikkhu, who's a Theravada monk halfway around the world in Bangkok. I'm in Mexico here, so we're pretty much spread around the globe here. I don't see Sudamo yet, but he will be here, I'm sure. Sudamo's just getting hooked up. Before he does, I've already introduced you, Sudamo, as a Theravada monk from Bangkok. So welcome. So happy to have you here, my brother. I just wanted to
happen to be talking from Bangkok.
Yes, this is so lovely. It's really great. I really want my friends to get to meet you.
First of all, my appreciation for having been invited by you. I would like to start by saying that I don't come to this meeting as a Dhamma teacher or some kind of meditation instructor. I was invited to a meeting amongst friends for a conversation, and that includes everyone else besides Robert and John. It's just a fellowship, you know, getting together around a common interest. And to me, this is what it's about. My being here, you know, like a friend in a conversation. I know how do I know everyone else heard what I said? So.
I think everyone is hearing what you've said. If someone would want to check in here and say hi to Sadamo, please speak up.
Hello, Sadamo. This is Sterling in Switzerland. I heard you fine.
Okay.
Good.
So my greetings to everyone. You know, let us welcome each other to this this gathering of friends around this common interest that I don't want to start by naming it, by trying to name it.
One of the things that where you and I seem to agree, Sadamo, is the idea that humanity at large is in a kind of trance-like state, and that what we call awakening, well, there I've named it, what we call awakening is really consists only of noticing that trance. And as soon as that trance is noticed, one is beginning to awaken from it. I wonder if you would discuss that a bit, Sadamo.
I don't think any person can say he or she is awake, because to my understanding, this being awake is being awake from the quote unquote dream of being a person, you know? So everything else is vocal. Everything that seems to be is vocal, but that which really is silent, and it's enough in that silence, you know? So what really is doesn't say I am, because it is. You know, and everything else that borrows its existence, its seeming existence from that which is, you know, bothers to make all the noise saying, I am, I am, I am, but it's not really. What really is doesn't say, because it is, you know. The saying is a need that comes from knowing deep within that it is not. So it tries to affirm, you know, and that's the illusion, you know, this personal dream. And when there is clarity, then there's nothing wrong with the personal dream, you know, because you're having a lucid dream, to you know, continue with the choice of words, you know. But so when you say awake, it's awake from dreaming to be a person, you know. But that doesn't mean the destruction of the person. It just means to exist with a new perspective, with a new clarity, where the movement on the surface, yeah, is being experienced by a center that is still and does not change, you know. And it's paradoxical, but it's the same nature of the atom, you know. At its center, it's empty, but without that emptiness, then, you know, atoms wouldn't be the building blocks that are for everything that is perceived by the senses, you know? So everything is made of that nothingness at the center. So it sounds ludicrous if you say, oh, everything is really, you know, and I'm being careful with the words, it's really nothing. It's like, okay, close all the books, we're done, you know, but that's basically it. The point is the heart accepting that by realizing the illusion of the person, you know, the heart accepting that and surrendering to it. Because then the dream goes on, but the sleep does not go on, you know. The problem is the illusion, not the movie, but that you take the movie to be real. That is the problem. And instead of changing the suffering, perceived suffering in the movie, you know, check the sufferer, you know? Because the sufferer, he has questions, but because he doesn't know who he is, you know, he's asking those questions. Perhaps if he answered that first point, you know, who is the questioner, then the questions wouldn't come up. You know, check this I. In the whole spectrum of traditions of people talking about these things, you know, from the most basic and silly magical thinking to the most sophisticated non-dualism, you know, the key figure is this I, this idea, this belief, you know, that the person is what you are. You know? And when that is put in check, regardless of the language you use, you know, it doesn't need to say anything. So if no one understands or no one agrees, you know, the peace is enough in itself. So no one will be part of any discussion or anything like that.
Marcus, I see that you're here. Yes, hi, Marcus. I was so touched by the way that you received my book. Your review of it was just excellent. I just loved it. And particularly when you said that you were moved to stop speaking truth and to speak truly or truthfully. I thought that was a great reading of the book, and it really kind of turned me on to that idea. Nobody knows everything. What we can do here is to speak truthfully about our own experiences. And the people that I most have learned from in life were truth tellers. It's a great thing. This friendship that I have with Sadamo now is really fertile because he just tells the truth. He has no big agenda. He's just from moment to moment expressing his deepest vision of what all this is about. Same thing with John Troy. They set great examples for me. I hope I'm up to that same task because I think that's what we have to offer one another in this life.
Gentle giant, that's what I call him.
A gentle giant?
Yes.
Yes. So, Marcus, I wonder if you'd like to speak. I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Very okay.
Okay. Yeah, I've been very impressed. I think it was around, I don't know, deep winter when I read the book. It was just handed to me, and like the impressive part for me was just to see that, like, this absolute truth of non-duality that was like kind of magically whirling around my mind, just collapsed. That it's not like an absolute truth that there's no me, and that there is like no meaning in things, and nothing matters, and like just this step further. I was really so happy that it is allowed, that it's just allowed to let it be whatever it is, like truthfully, just yeah. Although it's still like the question of the person is still very valid. Like, it's as Sudamo said, it is it's not true as my parents tried to tell me, and as my school tried to tell me. Like, it's not a fixed reality. And so in all this, I myself like try to criticize myself a lot about stuff that I do that is kind of like still not how I imagine it to be, and that is, for example, smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol. And this is something that I would like to ask Sudamo, because when I'm also friends with you on Facebook, and I perceive all this stuff that you say and hear like as kind of very free and very without any rules. So I would like to know how it comes together for you, that you can basically still have such a regiment, so much discipline in your life.
The word discipline usually has the connotation of stiffness and repression and going against what is natural, you know. But if your motivation is healthy, you know, if your intention coming from a good place, then you use it as a means, you know, and you don't take that as an end. You understand that this is just to teach your mind to cultivate a certain way of looking at things. Then practice, any kind of practice, is supposed to turn into spontaneity, you know, because it's supposed to bring you in harmony with nature. So it flows like that. There's no doing, there's no doer, you know, but you have to start from where you are. If at this point you're thinking, yes, I'm doing this, then start from there. Start thinking that you are doing, you know. As you cultivate this new perspective, you realize, oh, this is just an idea like the other ideas, you know. So then practice becomes a flow. So what I feel is, I know there are these guidelines and rules, but the way I live so is spontaneous, is in harmony with this. So I don't feel like I'm following rules. I don't feel like I am like restricted by this, because it's in harmony. It's like, it feels like it's my natural way of behaving, because it is in harmony with nature. I'm not doing any violence, you know, to anything that is natural in me. Like on the opposite, you know, on the opposite, like I don't feel like being here is a burden, you know. So my being here becomes a rejoicing that I see what it is really, you know, because the suffering, the world is not suffering, you know. Suffering is the lack of clarity, because you're taking yourself to be something that you're not, you know. These are all thoughts, and you have this hypnosis that you think this is me, this is I, this is mine, and this is suffering, you know, because once your identity is these things are changing, you know. And this is why you're in this constant search for what does not change. What does not change is you when you're quiet, you know. And then it's not that you will never know the truth, you know, but when you are not present, truth is known, you know. Then if you ask me, but by whom? By whom? Because this is the only way the mind can think. If it's known by someone, you know, but it's known by itself. For the mind, reality is nothing, because nothing by definition does not exist. The mind cannot comprehend what comprehends it. It cannot contain what contains it, you know. So the reality that is a still mind, instead of the seeming reality, which is a moving mind, you know, the reality, when spoken of by the mind, it's called nothing, you know. So, but in that nothing, everything is springing out of that, you know. So it's like a silly philosophical conundrum, you know, but it doesn't matter. It's not about what we're saying. These are just words, combination of letters that we agree upon a meaning, and they change from time to time, depending on environment. This is not real. It's just an agreement on the meaning of the noise we make, you know. So let us not get caught in these things, you know. Experience, you know, the source of the thoughts, the source of this movement is stillness. Experience the source of everything, you know. It is to the mind called nothing, but in that nothing, guess what? The peace people look for, you know, the joy people look for, you know, the rest people look for, you know. But this is only known when they are not, you know. It sounds negative. Say, oh, what do you mean I am not? This is not real. You're lamenting for an illusion, you know. What you really are cannot be said. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But for sure, you're not the person. you know, and the person is the protagonist of the suffering, you know. So instead of trying to stop the suffering out there somewhere, you know, you stop the sufferer, put him on check, you know, and it's just adjustment of focus, doesn't change the story. The person is not destroyed. This is energy in motion, you know, and it's beautiful if you're not a slave to it, you know. You're wearing a mask and you're imprisoned by the idea that this is you, but you can wear the mask, and freedom is wearing the mask, you know, that belief, you know, because this is the real cult. This is the real cult, is the cult of the I, you know, because after all, this is the God everyone is worshiping, you know. They believe in this God that they are these separate people, and that is me, and that is you, and then we fight, you know. We can play the me and you if we know the truth, you know. And the truth is that there is one life that is intelligent, and it is aware, and is peeping through everything, you know.
I got from the question that I was like genuinely interested in that. How can you be such, let's say, such a free man and at the same time be so restricted by being a monk? Is that for me, in the same way, like I thought non-duality, for example, means nothing matters. I wouldn't be afraid of death. I wouldn't be afraid of loss. I wouldn't be afraid of losing my girlfriend. I would be kind of above the law somehow for a while, let's say for, I think, maybe 2 or 3 years. In the same way, I think maybe that smoking and drinking is still a remainder. Maybe it's from this kind of attitude where nothing matters. And I think I got a glimpse into how you see things, and how it's not like a tension that like leads to that discipline, and like a resistance to doing things wrong, but more a natural flow, and it's not even exhausting. So yeah, that's quite interesting. Thanks very much.
I would like to hear what you, John, and Sudamo have understood through your living in this on this planet about choice. Can we choose our motivations? Can we choose our interests? Can we choose our thoughts? Can we choose to be better people? Do we have a choice in any of this? Please comment, the three of you.
Oh, what a superb question. How about you begin with that one, John Troy?
From how I see it, is the chooser is the doer, or the narrator in the head bone that narrates one's storyline and would like to govern how that storyline might unfold. In my own observations of that narrator is that it's much like a narrator at let's say a football game. Is narrating the game, and the narrator gets excited or gets disappointed. Oh, he just missed it. Look at him go, and all of this, and you could cheer each side and wish and hope, but at the end of the game, the narrator can't change the outcome of the game. It's just a narration. And it's second guessing at best. And it's going to happen. The narrator is just this function is going to happen like an itch. But the choice is like a narrator in a football game can make a choice and change the outcome of the game. So I see the notion of making a choice is not going to go away in tethered as the chooser, and the resultant is kind of a mixed bag. I mean, you're going to get it right some of the time, most time you're not. But what happens, and it's, I find that the chooser is also tied up into these doctrines, these religious doctrines and things, or doctrines of sin, whether it's karma, reincarnation, or heaven and hell, and all of that. It's really putting a lot of shame and guilt on this narrator that's not making things better. So I just say, give it up, and acceptance is, and that acceptance includes oneself. It's not just accepting of what happens outside oneself, but accepting one's own response, which is really spontaneous. To me, I just went in there and got a glass, because I thought of this when Sadama was speaking, that I got this glass, and inside this glass there's space, and if I move this glass around, that space seems to be moving, and that narrator lives inside here. That's the bell. That's the narrator inside this glass. That narrator is assuming of the shell of the glass. To me, awakening, I'm going to try this. I don't know very well. I'll put a little something there. Awakening means that is gone now. It's gone. So that what's inside hasn't moved. It hasn't expanded. It hasn't done anything. Only the shell of the glass is now broken and gone. So that there's no bouncing off the walls of that glass, thinking that narrator that is can claim the territory that's only within that glass is seamless. It's seamless, and the sentience that was once imagined to be contained within that glass is now seamless. It didn't change anything inside that glass. It just broke the container. So now I've got glass, broken glass here. But that's, to me, that's the chooser is made up of these pieces of glass, and awakening that breaks that. And you can call it an implosion or explosion or whatever, but really the stillness that was inside the glass is now seamless with the stillness resting in infinity. That's it.
Wow.
That's something.
That's remarkable. That's lovely. Well, what do you say, Sadama? I'm eager to hear your comment on the same question, which is, I must say, that's a great question. It goes right to the heart of the matter, I think.
No, the sense of doership exists to the degree that the belief that the person has a reality of its own, exists, to the same degree, because one goes with the other. It should always go back to not if do we have a choice, is there someone making choices, because that's where the buck stops, so I guess, yeah, you have, or you think you have, according to the degree that you think you are the person, which I understand, that's what we seem to be. That's it. That's what I have to say. And especially after the whole glass prop thing, it's like, what can you say? It's, you know, when people say, do you want me to draw it? You know, he's actually like breaking glasses, like, I understand this. This is great.
That's right. Oh, man. Got some crazy friends, huh?
Everyone a little bit, you know?
Yeah. This is lovely. What a great meeting. It's more than I hoped for, and I had my expectations were high to begin with. Oh, this is great. Well, I'm going to put my oar in the water on that question also. If I go back into childhood, I have memories of great innocence. I can remember back that far. And because I'm a psychologist and I have always seen things that way, as each individual has a certain bias and spin, and it's just unavoidable. I mean, that's who you are as a person. So, but before I was trained to be a person, I remember this time of innocent seeing of the world without any judgment. I really remember it. Maybe it's an illusion and I'm creating that memory now, a form of self-hypnosis, maybe. In any case, that's part of the story. And then I saw that I was trained, like all the rest of us, to somehow find a niche in society. And in finding that niche, the innocence is lost and you become a person. You're trained to become a person. It's a requirement. And the training may be more or less gentle or more or less harsh, but we're all in a hypnotic trance. However that was enforced in childhood might be ugly or sweet, but it's the same trance. And the trance is that you take this ghost in the machine to be a speaker. But really, there is no speaker. There's only speaking.
That's what the word person means, right?
Yes, the persona was the Greek, in Greek tragedy, the persona was the mask, and those masks had a megaphone for the mouth because those actors, they didn't have any audio equipment. They had to just go for it. And the dramatis personae, as they're called, it was a list, an actual list of the masks that were to be used in that drama, because it was the persona, it was the masks that were the characters, not the actors. The actors were just the personifying those personas, you know. Well, that's what we're trained to do. And then for one reason or another, or no reason, someone like a John Troy or a Sadamo or Robert just sees that. And in the very seeing of it, it falls apart. You understand that you've just been dreaming this commitment to this ghost. But meanwhile, there's a myself that isn't a ghost. Now, people get very upset about that, discussing that. And I have no help for that. I mean, if you're going to get upset, you will. It's not my fault. But what I'm saying is there's nothing to be upset about, really. The more the myself is seen through and disappears, the more beautiful your life will become. It's an automatic, really. I see it that way. So that's what I have to share, that you can just be an ordinary person like Sudamo or John or Robert, and at the same time have a vision that just makes all of that unimportant. But it's still there, and it has to just have. Oh wait, just let me finish this thought. Excuse me. It has to have the personality it has. It's not a question of cleaning anything up. It's not about that. It's not about being nice. We have to take the moral judgment out of it. But you're going to do what you do anyway. It's unavoidable. So I guess that's the answer. That's the deep answer to the question. Yeah, it's unavoidable. I don't think you can really choose to do good or not do good. Those are just stories we tell ourselves way after the fact. And whatever this aliveness is, and the crazy brain that's sitting on top of it, whatever animal nature that's going to act out, that's just what's going to happen. As the Greeks used to say, the ancient Greeks, you can throw nature out with a pitchfork, but she'll always come back again. And that's my attitude. You just have to live in a natural way and allow that aliveness to express itself as it must. And don't put some spirituality on top of it, like a carpet where you can sweep all the dirt under there. Just what John Troy was talking about. That's just this container. That's where all the shame and guilt is kept, in the glass. Thank God you broke it just in time. All right, I've said enough. I like to open the floor a bit more broadly if there's someone who'd like to comment.
Again, I think one of the problems we have is that we're trying to use words that are part of this hypnosis, if you will, to describe states that are kind of outside this hypnosis. And since we've been learning our whole lives to use these particular sets of judgments and analysis and so on, it makes it sometimes possible for a lot of confusion. I came into this idea of awakeness through I had a lot of experiences younger racing cars particularly, and you get into a state called what you call satori, or which is a long-term kensho in my thing. And it wasn't until some years later that I came across, particularly with Gurdjieff and Hiddeslin and people like that, that I realized what was happening. I knew the state of the satori, of being in the state where you aren't there anymore. It's too dangerous to have any thoughts about yourself. It's only happening. And you're there in the car going, and it's very quick. And if you think about it, you probably crash. And what I noticed when I was with a lot of professionals, I spent a lot of time around Formula One, is that when people came out of the state, in other words, when they stopped the car after the race, and I knew all of these Formula One drivers in the 60s and 70s, then they thought they were the doer. In fact, they weren't the doer. They were in a place where it was happening, and it was fantastic. But then when they came out of that space, it's no longer dangerous, then their body, mind, or ego, or whatever you want to call it, assumed that they had actually done that rather than participated in its happening.
So that's when there is no doer. In an emergency, we're all there automatically.
Exactly.
We don't have to train ourselves through yoga or whatever. It's just you swerve your vehicle if someone's coming right at you. It just happens. There's not a you that swerved it. Swerving happens. Yes.
Exactly. Except the point is that depending on how strong you are in that moment, when you see something like a child running across the road, I think it was an example in Grand Prix, the movie I worked on for years, where there was, and I know people that have crashed that way, is that if you're completely in that moment, that swerve happens, the best possible, say, ability to avoid hitting the child. But if you suddenly panic and drop down into, quote, yourself, you can no longer react as fast. Time speeds up, and you're liable to hit the child or have an accident or something similar.
So there's this feeling, in a way, that time has slowed down. Everything has become slow.
That's right. It actually has, in a way, because your perception, it looks much slower and then when you drop into your personality, or in other words, you go lower down, and it's no longer happening, and you think you're somehow involved, this little you, then time speeds up and you can't react in that space. So the strength of the satori is also traditionally the strength of the great racing drivers who could say, like from my friend Sterling Moss, who could race open road in Italy through the most incredible, fucking unbelievable conditions and not hit anything because they never lost that space of not being there, of only being in the happening itself. I hope that makes sense to you.
I guess but we cannot depend on such dramatic happenings. Can you imagine? There are ways, and I totally get this story. I appreciate what you're saying, but so there are ways to be in that 0 point, you know, without any dramatic story surrounding you, you know, and
of course, excuse me. Of course, that's true, but that's one reason why I came towards the direction and say that Robert is at, or you, the places you're in. But at first, when I first saw that, then I realized the attraction of this kind of, someone said something about superhero kind of stuff. That's what people think is happening. They don't realize that a real goal is for you to live more in that kind of a space without this danger element, without it being so exciting, that it just be a normal way of consciousness. And that's what seems to be lacking within the kind of general society. And what you're talking about is living in that moment of awareness without that danger, which is really the real key, not finding it through mountain climbing or parachute driving or car racing or whatever. Right?
Yeah, because these things happen outside and they trigger silence in us, stillness in us, you know, like you sit at the beach and watch the sunset and then you're quiet spontaneously, you know, but the quietness didn't jump from the sun into your chest, you know, that triggered your mind to be calm. Its nature and what is happening, you can use whatever method works for you to learn to go back to that place, to go to that center. And the more you do that without compulsion, obsession, you know, just attitude of cultivation of any doing or practice, you know, being a doing and this and that. You just enjoy because it's for the sake of your well-being, you know. And then eventually you're out in the world and acting with your personality and doing whatever you seem to be doing, you know, but you don't lose that center, you know, that place when you used to sit down and close your eyes to be still like that. Now you can be in the world and find inaction in action. Can be doing things, going places, talking, saying I, me, mine, but that certainty inside that this is you is gone. So the same thing is going on, but the focus of your lens has been adjusted, you know. The mind, you know, we experience with the mind, but the mind is not following for its own trick. So it goes on without the illusion that this is real. Real is that peace when there's nothing happening, you know, and it's available while things seem to happen, you know. So that's another rant.
Hi, Robert. I wonder if we could go back just a moment to the choice and the chooser. Because what's bringing this up for me is a long time search through workshops and teachers and that kind of thing. Not so much meditation, but recently joining a group that's focusing on the meditation. If this is the thing that catches my mind, because I know the space of the stillness and the quiet that moves through, or I move through it, is actually more clear. But it comes up with how well, all of the workshops that are happening, if there's really no chooser, you could do the workshops your whole life and never come to this place that's always here. It's all, the stillness and peace is always here. And then the mind or something moves through it. How does this chooser, non-chooser relate to what's actually going on the planet right now? Because the podcasts for selling these workshops, if you just do the 7 weeks, will give you something. I'd just like to have someone speak to that a little bit more.
Do you want me to comment on it?
Sure, sure.
Whatever seems to be happening in the outside world is actually what's happening in the inside world. This human personality is never going to straighten itself out. It doesn't work that way.
Oh, okay, I got that.
So if you tie that into what Sudama was saying earlier about seeing that this person has to be here, but not totally believed in. You just have to see that person, don't erase it. You can't throw it out. I mean, if this really is non-duality, where are you going to put it? There is no out. It's all in. See, that's non-duality. This is it. Okay, so once we understand that there's no throwing anything away, then the possibility for freedom is to see that the person who's all hung up on what do I get out of it, or this, I want to be happy, or whatever the demand may be, that's just a dream. Meanwhile, there's something else that we really are, and it doesn't have a name. And because it does not have a name, for a lot of people, it doesn't really exist. And they call it God or something, and they put it outside of themselves, and now I have to be afraid of it or feel guilty or something. But that's not really what this is. All it is understanding that this is your life, and whatever everyone else is doing, that's not really your problem. The only problem is to find this equanimity. And however one searches, my experience is that it wasn't about the search that I was on. It was about seeing, as John Troy likes to say, exhausting all the remedies. See, just working through all of that, working through hedonism as a youth, and philosophy and all this. But eventually it just comes down to you're alive, and everyone else is too. And you have to be here unless you want to commit suicide. And since you have to be here, and you notice that there's a lot of suffering involved, all you can do, I say, is to accept the suffering. Don't look for some strategy to minimize suffering. That's where everyone makes this mistake. And so I say your question about the outside world is really about your own equanimity.
Yes, you're bringing, you're hitting, as usual, you really are hitting the gut. And I welcome these times because it's just the next stage, but it really is, there's turmoil going on in the system right now. And I really, really appreciate that. Because it feels like I so clearly most of the time. And you've just said it so simply that it can't be avoided.
Yeah, well, I think that's something that we all need to be reminded of a lot. And it's possible that someone breaks through and then doesn't need to be reminded anymore, but that's not of the essence. The idea is to find one's own equanimity, not what someone else tells you you are, or spirituality, none of that. It's very simple. It's just being quiet and understanding that you're not in control of your thoughts and feelings. There is no controller of all that. That is you, the person. That's, as that arises, that is myself. You can't fix it. It keeps arising, and it's never the same. That's you.
Yes, that's,
And what Sadama was saying is that for him, there's a oneness that is the substrate of all of that. That's
yes.
always there, yeah?
Yes,
So,
I get, yes, I
yeah,
got that.
so that's his experience. I don't see a divide there as much as I sometimes hear from others, but that's just personal experience. What I'm getting at is that somehow or another, and it could be meditation or whatever it is, it's equanimity that where the beauty is facing mortality with equanimity. That's what I say.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Robert.
Yes, you're most welcome. Just facing mortality with equanimity is so beautiful. So
Actually,
beautiful.
I think it's,
I've seen people do it, and I always felt inspired.
right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, it's like the actual sense of owning this life fully. I think that's where it's hitting me, is that I've spent most of my life the doer for others. And then this is a complete shift of owning this life fully. And I can't express it any clearer right now because it's unraveling as we're talking.
My acquaintance with you over the years, you've actually, the fox has been out of the box for a long time. The hang up for you is the pain part, and it's a tough nut to crack. It's not, all I could say is it's not masochism, but you have to enjoy your pain. It's part of this. It's part of this aliveness. Without, what if there were nothing?
Yes.
Well, I kind of like this. Feels like an opportunity. See, and I understand that in many ways it's painful. I mean, I'm a 73-year-old man.
Yeah.
I get that, but that's not really of the essence. The essence is this moment and suchness of it.
Yes.
And that's all we can ever know. And it's all we can ever touch at all. And we barely touch this. But all the rest of it, the worries and concerns and all that programming, that's just a tape that runs in the background. Don't pay it any mind. It can't go away, but it's just there, yes. Mm-hmm.
So that's what's the whole thing that's being sold, that I bought into for so long, still, even in little tiny ways, that there's a way out. Even maybe this Zoom is a way out, you know? That's what's starting to unravel. Just the little subtle ways of there's actually a way out.
Yeah, well, you don't actually have to critique that. Life is its own renunciation, you know.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
I mean,
Well,
whatever you think about it, you're still here. There's no avoiding that. I'd like to ask Sadamo to jump in here on this theme, if you'll be so kind, sir.
This is one of the best evidences that you're getting to a good place. You know, when you don't have a name for it. You know, you may utilize some ism or some means that have a name, but when you start to not be able to fit into words, now that is evidence that you're getting to your quote unquote destination, why you got into this in the first place. But motivation has a lot to do with that. A lot of people are motivated by you know, having a sense of belonging or just a new identity that replaces the previous one for the sake of like running away from the questions that ought to be asked. You know? So there are many ways to do that, even disguised as a pursuit of truth, of happiness. And the real happiness is to be happy for no reason. And what people consider the pursuit of happiness is to be happy for a reason, some reason, good reasons. You know? But so we use the same words for different things, talking about different realities. So that's what I have to say. Don't join anything. And you can look at things like something to be utilized, you know, a bridge to be crossed. But that's that. And just your ordinary life is miracle enough, you know. And what you considered like nothing before, now it's fascinating. Because if you get rid of the illusion caused the suffering, not the person. The person is not bad or good. The person is just mask. It's suffering because of belief in the person, self-belief. That's it. What I have to say.
Yes, so just to underscore what you're saying, the person is not inherently in a state of pain or suffering. The pain and suffering comes from believing that the person is factual. Is that the essence?
So I would say pain is factual in the sense that, you know, I can fall down and break a leg and I'll feel pain. I'll register that information. It is what it is. It's unpleasant, not pleasant, you know. But from that to crying, why me? You know, like if I'm something that can be broken, you know, I'm not a bone. No, this bone is food that I take in every day, and it's just together. Cannot say it's my leg is me, you know, it's part of this body, and this body is how I am here. It's an object amongst other objects. It's made of food, you know.
So really no distinction between this body and anything else. Is that the essence of it?
It's made of what the trees are made. It's made of the elements, you know? And the food is made of the elements, and the body is made of the food. And so it's just nature is just this self-consuming, you know, movement. It's just eating itself, you know. It springs out and it decomposes and it's reabsorbed and it comes out again. It just keeps on going and moving and moving. And the body is nature. It's made of what everything else is made of. And for us, for this awareness is an opportunity, you know, to be still amidst movement. You know? It's the whole point. It's not either or. You know, like the atom, to be still amidst movement. You know? You can almost see us in a fractal way. You know, each one of us is an atom. Our heart is an atom. You know? So it's the same thing. The whole thing is going around this is still center. You know? And when the identification is switched from the surface to the center, there's peace. Without self, pain happens, you know, but suffering is of the mind. Pain is of the body, is of nature. Suffering is mental. Suffering is only possible if it happened to me. So let's check this me.
That's good. Comments, anyone? Questions?
Yes, it seems to me that we all physical structures are made of, you know, atoms or smaller particles. a tree, you, me, my car, whatever. Each body seems to me is like a mechanism for certain kinds of perceptions. So as human beings, we have an exceptional ability to perceive many things that perhaps maybe a rock cannot perceive. And that is a fabulous kind of mystery to me, and that we are able to use this vehicle to perceive, that we identify with it and make stories about it and all the other kind of stuff. That's kind of a different issue.
Yeah. In human beings, it seems to be possible because of this particular spine and brain, that allows not only for awareness, but to self-awareness. It can look out like the other beasts do, but it can also look at itself, and with this ability, it develops this ego, and on the ego, the person is built, and the person is taken to be the reality.
Yes, that's correct. Could I ask you, excuse me, sir, could I ask you a simple question? Because we have had a couple of discussions, particularly with John and Robert, about karma, reincarnation, and so on. And since I assume that you might be a monk and have some insight, at least into Buddhist thinking, what your views are on karma and reincarnation.
Yeah, I think the words are contaminated.
Yes, okay.
And basically, when we hear about reincarnation, we hear about different people coming back, No person can come back, no person. Persons have no permanent existence. They're just instances. They're just, gathering of concepts. It's fruit of past tendencies and what you're experiencing and identifying yourself with. It's just a put together. It's a collage, and it happens moment to moment. You're not the same person. The person is something that comes together for you to respond, and most of the time react to different situations that come up. It's this fluctuating thing. So no person can come back. But mind is energy. This, we say mind is this awareness looking out, This in its nature is aware, it's intelligent, and it's sheer energy. So it cannot be destroyed by definition, but it's always transformed. So this is just mental stuff. It's all also thoughts. The person is thoughts. So the person never comes back. But this mind stuff doesn't have anywhere else to go, but to be recycled in space and time. So, the same things are always here, the same thoughts and the same, this is why it's all, there's no new thought under the heavens, But it keeps being, the expressions, keep happening in infinite possibilities. But never, no person, no ego, no one can say, oh, I was so and so. It's this is magical thinking. This is just stories. But I think that mind as energy, that's what I understand. It's just not going anywhere. It's being recycled in space and time. It's always here gaining new expressions. Part of this movement. And I can say I can say a few other things that, for example, there are different ways to look at this. At each moment we are, dying and being born. So you can also look at this concept, watching happen in the moment, because everything is simultaneously living and dying. If you look at a tree and you say it's living, you're correct. But if you say it's dying, you're equally correct, because life and death are simultaneous. It's just a matter of adjustment of focus. You see life, you adjust the lens, you see death. It's the same event, can be looked at from two different angles. So this is also a form of perceiving everything in this cycle, It's not really going anywhere. It's just moving. You know? What comes up, it goes down. It comes up again. And you say, oh, it's someone else. Not someone else. The same water is here, becoming waves, ceasing, and coming back again.
Thank you, Sudamo. I'd like to invite anyone else who wants to speak to please enter into the conversation here. I see a hand up. It's Muriandi. Is that you?
Now, this question to both Robert and also Bhikkhu. Can I call you Bhikkhu, Sudamo?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Now, there is this, the understanding, when I read Robert's book and his and all his videos and all that, my seeking actually stopped with this understanding that this is it. Right now, right here is all there is to it. There is nothing more. Who I am is this perception, this thoughts, this emotion, this movement, this impermanence that's moving, including who I think I am. It's all moving. But just want to go earlier before this reincarnation topic, on the topic of you were saying there is a stillness in the midst of movement, Bhikkhu. So I wanted to address, get clarification on that, because the biggest clarity I had from John and Robert is that there is only movement. There is no underlying stillness. There is no peace. There is no another layer beneath the movement. There is only movement, impermanence. As it's arising, it's collapsing. There is nothing underlying it. So, whereas you say there is a center and a circumference, perhaps it's open to all to discuss. And I feel after all these years of confusion, when Robert says there is no a base which with everything is moving. The movement is what is. Correct me, Robert, if
I do want to correct you, Mariandy. I think you may not have quite taken in what I was saying. The way that I see this is that the ordinary myself will never put this all in order. That just can't happen, because the disorder is that myself who wants to organize everything and get it right, or feel less guilty or less anxious, or whatever the desire may be for a certain relief or a certain feeling. That myself is only strengthened when you struggle. And so when I say it's all movement, I mean from the point of view of Robert. I cannot know silence. Robert can never know silence. The idea of Robert is already a rock thrown into the pond of silence, and the ripples are going outward. So there's no more, the pond is no longer a perfect mirror when Robert is there. What would you say, Sudamo?
Well, many people want to have an experience of the truth, but that is impossible. You know, it can only be known when there is no you present. You know? And it's as simple as that. But most people may hear this and think, oh, then if there's no you, there's nothing. Because you're taking you to be real. But the truth is when you are not. You know? This is why you push to experience. That's the suggestion, because you cannot know by saying it. If I say it, I get to a dead end. You know? So you're not supposed to speak what it is. The speaking is just to incite people to look within, you know, and find out for themselves. It's just because we come from different stories and we're trying to find harmony in the difference, you know. Like what all these different stories have in common, and what we have in common is not in the story, on the surface, on the form it takes. It's on a certain sincerity and intention, you know, or you know, you before waking up, you awaken to that thirst, you know, and you accept it and you follow to where it leads you, you know, and it leads you to realizing that you are not as real as you thought you were, you know, and you find that something that cannot be spoken and to the mind is called nothing. What I'm suggesting is that there is something to nothing.
That makes it perfectly clear. Nothing is something and something is nothing. We'll never really know what nothing is. We'll
because
never...
that's the word to say that something doesn't exist. So there's not, let the mind say it is nothing. If your heart wants to find out, it will find out, but the mind cannot speak.
The mind cannot, yes, the mind cannot conceive of emptiness. It's only a word. As soon as the mind
what do people want? Come in the internet and someone tell them the truth and now they're happy?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's
It'll
right.
never happen.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something like that in some of your comments about how a spiritual teacher needs to be a friend. It has to be a friendship basis, not a professional situation. I wonder if you would address that. Are you willing to do that?
Yeah, because the kind of purity that goes on in true friendship, you know, is enough to communicate this that cannot be spoken, you know, because when there is real friendship, then the two hearts relate, you know, and what cannot be spoken ends up by being known, you know? So this is why the contact is important. If you have to speak in general terms, then you have to be shallow. But when it boils down to individuals, you know, then you can go to particulars and bring clarity because of the purity of the friendship, you know? So, and it has nothing to do with quantity, it's to do with quality. It's as you come across people doing whatever you're doing wherever you are, it's nothing to do with the form it takes, with the scenery. It's the quality of what happens and how that affects you to realize that this is, you know, you've been suffering unnecessarily.
I refer to this so-called nothingness as sentience. Something that has come home to me. Stillness doesn't move, and stillness has no duration. The idea that we can grab hold of stillness and put it into time and space and have duration is illusory. That stillness knows no duration whatsoever. And this stillness is radically naked. It may manifest as naked innocence or naked awareness or nothing. When the glass is shattered. Everything and nothing is fused.
Yeah.
That's what the spiritual guys may call a samadhi. Then all is as it should be. And no chooser or doer to change things or to wish things to be different. That's sentient. I'm not so sure anyone can say that sentience actually incarnates as something. I don't see it that way. Nor do I see eternity as time. Stillness is eternally still. The nothing is eternally nothing. The dissipation of the 10,000 things, returning to stillness gives everything, the 10,000 things, a beauty. And it doesn't matter if a tree is blooming in the woods and coming along, or it's dying and the bark is off the limbs and it's drying and getting some silver colors and things in it. Sentience is untouched by that and untouched by time and space. And grabbing, trying to understand sentience is like grabbing a handful of air, and you may do it over and over and over and over again, but you still, until you're tired of doing that and you let it go, then it's futile to understand or know nothing. Better to be nothing. And all things happen in a universal systemic way without the notion of agency, whether it's a reincarnation or doctrine of sin or fretting, regretting, that realizing that we're not a container, strengthen the notion of doership. And practice can create ideas of role models, whether you drink or smoke or fuck or whatever you do. None of that matters. None of it. I don't see any practice that's going to make one iota of difference whatsoever, other than exhausting that practice as a cure for something that's incurable. I mean, it is as it is. I think acceptance of mortality radically, with no escape hatches, brings attention to right now, profoundly so. And in that, the stillness is intuited through acceptance rather than doing something. All the doctrines out there, the problem with the doctrines, they're like maps. They're not the territory. They get hung up on the doctrines and the wording and who said this and that. I think there's a time when the doctrines all fall away. Is really useless, along with any practices, and along with contrivance, trying to be clever and make things seem to be other than they are. I'm an elder like Robert. I have lots of aches and pains. I've had health issues. My heart quit working. That was interesting. I noticed that when oxygen stops feeding the brain tissue, that's it. There's a confusion and then absolutely nothing. Nothing that can be cognized or grasped. And that's benign. Nothing is profoundly benign. We enjoy it every night and dream of sleep. We got no problems with forever before being born. They put us to sleep in anesthesia. There's nothing. I don't see any sense in putting a lot of imagination into afterlife scenarios with reincarnation or states of consciousness or bardos or tunnels of light or any of that. I think that's all just confusion but being awake, the one claiming to be awake is awakened from. When the container is broken, what was once perceived to be inside is seamless and resting at infinity. The container is no longer functioning. You can see there'll be broken pieces and those broken pieces may cause pain in life. Well, they're broken. So nothing to me is the same as sentience or presence. And for me, a very key part of understanding stillness is that it has no duration. And what never started never stops. It's not stillness that can hitch a ride with your storyline and always be
there. The one good thing that happened after reading the 40 is my seeking ended. That is the first thing that happened. And why it ended that way is because I realized there's nothing that I don't need to get a satori. I don't need to find the stillness in order for me to live right now as the experience that's exploding moment by moment. You brought me back to the moment that I don't have to have any special event or threshold for me in order for me. So I just live as what happens, experience the pain and enjoy the enjoyment, whatever comes. So I do not have any strategy to do anything. And whatever I do, whatever I feel like doing, if that's what's feeling, I just do it. There is no person trying to do anything. It is just what I feel like doing, I just do it. There's no person. So in this context, when Bhikkhu mentioned about there's a center and periphery, a stillness and a movement. So I wanted to put it together in terms of.
Oh, okay. I don't think there's really a space there, just only an apparent space. It's just two perspectives on the same thing. But I don't think that Sadamo would any more than I would try to define reality. We don't get to do that. We're human beings here, after all. We can have great wisdom and understanding, but there is a limit. And I think the thing that I admire most about John and about Sadamo, and why I really wanted them to be here, is that they both know that. They're about as human as you can get, both of them. And that's really beautiful. It takes courage. And I feel that way about myself. I'm kind of always stripped naked when I do these Zooms.
Robert,
yeah, really. Yes.
At least when I was talking about Munyandi, this is for you. When I was talking about stillness and movement, I'm not talking about two separate things with two separate natures. Like the same, whatever is still, that is moving. So it's the same substance, not what movement is made of something else, and there's a foreign substance, underneath it all. Because we are localizing in space if we say underneath, outside, and this and that. And so at least I don't know if this answers your question, but I was talking about the substance in movement, not apart from movement. And the other thing I would like to mention about what John was saying about eternal, not being in time. I think it's very common to hear the misunderstanding between perpetual and eternal. Perpetual is forever, is in time, and eternal, it means timelessness. At least that's how I use most of the time. If I say eternal, I mean timeless, as if time is on the horizontal, and when I want to mean the vertical, I say eternal. Just two things.
Yeah, I say the same thing. So that's what I was getting at here. There's no, if there's any apparent disagreement, it's only language.
See, I rejoice not in seeking agreement on the level of words.
Yes, of course, not on the level.
I rejoice with the diverse, because we are come from these different experiences and are voicing the sum total of these different experiences. This is what makes it interesting, because I still can recognize an essence to it all, and we'll choose different words because, and this is so not important, but all the disagreement is concentrated on the surface of things,
Mm-hmm. This is, forgive me, this is where a lot of this non-duality teaching just gets it wrong here. They just jump the shark at this point because there's actually no respect for the person may be dreamlike. The person is dreamlike, let's face it. But even in that dream, each person has an essence and it has to be respected, not erased. If we erase that, what are we doing here? I mean, what's it all about? What it's about is through relationship, through the alchemy of conversation and everything else, is to arrive at some sane understanding, yeah? So,
like when you answered Martina about the outside world being a reflection, or
Yeah.
projection of what's going on inside.
Yes.
And it's the same thing. I mean, you take people seriously, you know, to the degree that you take yourself seriously. You know, if you're like, you swear by your cult, your belief in the person, then you take people seriously, you know, because they're as real as you think you are. So to the same degree, when you realize that this is empty, that this person is just, you know, an object in space and time, you know, and in that freedom, it is beautiful. I'm not putting it down.
Of course you aren't. And I think a lot of people get it wrong at that point, because to understand that this person is a kind of dream is not to demean that person or try to pretend the person doesn't exist at all. Of course it exists. We know each other as people, and that's part of our knowing of the tendencies, the psychology.
The person is awesome. What is not awesome is the suffering. It's from the belief that that is the reality.
Yes.
You know, and it's not, you cannot point it as reality. It's impermanence itself per excellence, you know. So it's just that misunderstanding. If that is fixed, life goes on. You're just no suffering because there is no illusion. That's all. And again, just occurs to me, I agree very much with something John said about what is it? Practice as taking a medicine. You know, I would say in the same way. I'd see it as an antidote to the hypnosis. You know, because damage was done. Yes, to that degree, you need to do something to undo the damage. It's just getting healthy again. When you're healthy, you know, what you're doing in the doctor's office, if you're not sick anymore, you know, just take the medicine, heal, and go live your life, whatever that is. You know? No, don't be like a slave. What are you now? I follow doctorism, you know.
Right.
Just get the medicine, take it, and go home. Go live your life. Heal, you know.
You and I agree on that totally, and I know John does too. You may need to take medicine for a while, but once you regain your health, if you keep taking the medicine, it will just poison you. That's when you stop taking it. That's when you stop taking it. You don't become a preacher of it. You just stop taking it, and it's over. You may feel very grateful to that wisdom tradition for having given you that support when you needed it, but you're not there anymore. That's all it is.
It's just a remedy because of the damage that was done, you know?
Yes.
I mean, at this point, you're sunk in that hole, like completely convinced you are the person. You have to use that very person to kind of undo that, you know? So yeah, the person takes the medicine and is doing this and is doing that, but there's a catch this time. These things will lead him to the understanding that he is not, you know? And once the antidote, you know, shows its effect, then you don't need to take anymore. You know, now you're healthy again, just live your life, you know, with the focus adjusted.
Yeah, so the actual realization is not this magical thinking at all. What it really is sanity. It's actual sanity as a human. That's how I really see it. This other thing that's projected into the spiritual realm or something, I'm not there. I think that when a human understands fully, there's a kind of sanity and equanimity that just takes over. Not that someone is trying to be equanimous or wise. It's not like that. It's just, that's what pertains. Everything has, as you said, Saddam, I like that. It's just a shift of focus, a small one. It's not even a big shift. It's a very small shift. And I know John agrees with that too. And I know I stepped out on a limb by saying, you know, I find myself awake, a personal confession. But I think it's helpful if someone is willing to say that and then redefine it, bring it down into human terms again. Try to purify that. You know, I think Sadamo said that some of the Theravadan terminology had been polluted, had become polluted earlier. I like that remark. That's exactly it. Because I see a kind of reincarnation.
Actually,
Go ahead, Sadama.
it's actually Buddhist terminology, reincarnation. It's not, it's a mistranslation, of a concept in Pali that it means more recycling than reincarnation. Reincarnation makes you think there's a person.
Yeah. So what hangs people up is reincarnation is what they desire. See, it's really crazy because the original teaching was, I want this to be my last cycle, whatever it takes. I want to realize and get off the wheel. That was the original teaching. But now everybody, they want to know their horoscope and how many times they get to reincarnate so they can still, do all these fun human things over and over and over and over and over again. So that becomes, then the thing is turned upside down. But the original intent, these wisdom traditions, people think I'm a big critic of them, but I'm not. Of course there's wisdom there, except it's been turned on its head, like Donald Trump has turned politics on its head. They make the truth into a lie and the lies into truth, and then you don't know what you're dealing with. And a lot of the teachers and a lot of the ones who are really making money at this game also, their teaching has become polluted because they've reified a state that really cannot be described, and no one should try. And the thing I like about John Troy and Sadamo, when they speak, they don't try. They don't go there. They know that that's not where we go. We have to go to fellowship and allowing one another to be fully human in this reality. And the rest of it, what you think about it philosophically, I say, has nothing to do with it, really. You could say it's oneness, you could say it's fiveness, it really doesn't matter. If you give everyone else, I say, the opportunity to manifest it and the space, that's all you can do. There's on this last topic that Sadama was talking about eternity and timelessness and silence. I quoted in the book this conversation between the two Zen monks who happened to meet in the road, and one says, "How are you, brother?" And the second monk says, "Well, I'm in the place where nothing ever changes." So the first monk says, "But brother, isn't everything always changing?" And the second monk says, "Well, yes, that never changes either." And that's where I think this entire conversation is. That's the end. I mean, if that's a Zen teaching, this story is a Zen story. But if you could see the meaning of that story, all of that dissolves. We don't need to discuss this. We're never going to. Our minds cannot this is, Sudama said this earlier, our minds cannot comprehend the nothing from which this emerges. We can't. It's not possible. And it's seeing that is the awakening, not conjuring up some pie in the sky and calling that it. Now I understand it. That's not it. The itness, the awakening is when you see the limit. And that's beautiful. You say, wow, the crazy Robert actually has a limit. He's not boundless. He'll come to the end of this rant. See, and that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now I'm ranting, so I'm going to give it back to you, Sadama.
I pass to John to say something.
I certainly see the practicality of using a thorn to remove a thorn, and then throwing both away, and so I would see a practice in that regard as practical. use a thorn to remove a thorn, and then throw them both away. Both are unnecessary. Both can be thrown away at the same time. So it doesn't matter what you use to remove the thorn, whether it's tweezers or hemostat or another thorn. It doesn't matter. There's no way really perfect to know. It's what's at hand that you can use to get that thorn out. Robert says about riding on the donkey, looking for the donkey, and then he follows up about once you realize you're on a donkey looking for the donkey, it's time to dismount the donkey. That's just want to add that little part to that. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. That's about it, John. I seem to be on the Middle Ages Zen kick. Another quotation from that period is, "Why do you want to put another head on top of the one you already have?"
And I have one also.
Okay, what is it?
When it hurts bad enough, you'll find a way.
Oh man, this is too much fun. I'm laughing. What a great meeting. I'm so glad we did this. I don't really have much more to say at this time. So I think, why don't we just go around once, let's go around once again and give anyone who wants to speak one more time.
I want to hear what Night Sky would like to say.
Are you there, Night Sky? You are.
Thanks so much. Out of respect for the gathering, I would have to defer any comments, but I appreciate the invitation.
Okay, so I understand skepticism. I guess you don't really know my work. Maybe you do, but if you don't, I'm usually the contrarian skeptic in any group.
I'm familiar with you, and you're not familiar with me, which of course, why should you be? But were you to become more familiar with me, you would find that I am indeed a friend.
Yeah, I had no doubt of that. I flew off the handle a bit. I think I retracted it by saying earlier that Sudama had got me back under control.
It's always important to bite the guru in the leg and see where he goes.
Yeah, there's no worries about any of it, man. See, the thing is, this is just birds chirping. We're just sitting on a wire chirping. We really are. It's fine. I mean, I find this kind of chit-chat interesting because it's always interested me. I was just born that way. I like this stuff as a teenage kid. I was interested in it. But it's just chirping. We're alive. That's really the essence of the matter. And whatever philosophy we may bring, that's an overlay. There's really this aliveness expressing itself. And I don't think we should worry about that as much as we humans seem to like to worry. It's really just passing quickly. If you just let it be what it has to be, it'll all be over soon.
Between now and extinction, why not make a few friends?
Yeah, that's right. Good time. Well, okay.
Yes, I feel that any attempt to find harmony in this constant change, this world of changes, which words are part of, is futile. This is not where the harmony happens. We should not get caught in words as if we are disputing. Not that we are doing this in this group, but these conversations cannot be dispute on who says it better. First of all, it cannot be said. So we just expressing ourselves and with that disclaimer, you know, it cannot be said. So it's just expression. It may inspire, it may, you know, be used as a guidance, or you may learn from what you disagree with. But this attempt to agree, I think, causes a lot of unnecessary suffering, because it's not the point. If in essence we agree, and if nature agrees, and it does, you know, because the heart is beating, we're in precisely the same human condition. So if we verbalize, you know, from our experience in different ways, so what? It's not like we have different places to go, you know. However we talk about it, what is real is, and it doesn't change because we are saying in different ways. So it's like, it's just the whole thing of talking and taking it too seriously, as if the truth could be spoken. I think this is very easy to go off in that tangent, and it just becomes useless. It's no longer a celebration of fellowship.
Yes, that's it. There's a line there somewhere, as in all human affairs. It's just so beautiful that we're able to get together this way and make a space for a conversation like this. I can recall so many times in my life when this would have been highly desirable, and I knew it, but somehow it didn't manifest. You're in this search, and you're looking for that place of freedom, and I totally understand that search. It's just part of being human. Martina, I see you. It's just whatever a human being may devise in this theoretical framework that we try to always fit ourselves into some kind of picture frame, and it has to be a perfect rectangle and be spotless and all this. As soon as we do that, see, then all is lost. The actual being of oneself is automatic if you just allow it. It doesn't have to be manifest. It has to be just allowed, or even just noticed. It's like when I go out and photograph, I see things that other people don't see. And then they see the photo and they say, wow, how did you see this? Because I noticed it. That's all it is. That's what brings things into being. We're noticing. I mean, whatever the metaphysics is, I don't know anything about that, right? Or the science. I'm ignorant. And I think the scientists and metaphysicians are equally ignorant, really. But it's another conversation. But yes, this is it. Whatever we say or think, or whatever book somebody writes, yeah, if the book can stop you, like Marianne said, that 10,000 things stopped him, that's great. But after you get stopped, we'll start again. You can't hold on. You can't even hold on to the moment when you stopped. I mean, that's over the dam as much as anything else. Yeah. And so it's always this perpetual, it's like looking into a volcano, and the what we call reality or aliveness is just pouring out like lava, and you can't stop it. And you are just the witness to all of that. But when you personify that witness, and it doesn't understand that it's what John Troy called the narrator, the sportscaster. That's a perfect analogy. If I begin to root for Robert, I'll lose the thread, see? I don't really root for him. Whatever his karma, if you want to call it, that'll be it. I don't mean predestination. I'm not into that one. Or I don't mean perfect justice. I just mean whatever Robert has to live out, that's just what's going to occur. I have no choice in the matter. None at all. The mystery of it is early on in this conversation, Sadamo zoomed in on the mystery of intention. And that got passed over pretty quickly, but that's really a subject for deep investigation by anyone who's interested in that. Is there any intention at all? Can we find within oneself an intention that's permanent enough in this impermanence so that we actually move in a certain direction? What an amazing question, you know? Amazing question. I don't think it has an answer. I mean, I feel that I have an essence, but it's indefinable. But I won't legislate it out of existence by saying a person is only a fantasy. I don't know that. Personhood might be not only anything. It might be what we really are, except our definition of person is too narrow. Maybe if we really widened our understanding of what that word is, then we would see what the Buddhists call the codependent origination of all of this, and we wouldn't be confused. We'd say, oh, myself is this whole dance. This is really groovy. And then there's no more questions really that have to be addressed. That just solves everything, really. Except just because some guru I'll just put the capper on it. So just because some guru is very loving and it's I'm love and tells you love is everything, and you can't accept that. This is only a journey for one human at a time. I mean, you have to find a way to onward, Sadamo. You got the floor.
It's just the utility of having the perception of what this codependent origination is, how it all comes together, step by step, all the different layers, right, that compose this, the person and its sense of ownership and of doership. The whole point is not having all this information and then the thoughts and then the actual the present thoughts and the memories and the labels you give. That's not the point. The point is that you see all these things and see that they are anatta, that there is no self. They don't belong to someone, you know. They're just appearances in consciousness and disappearance. You know? So the point of seeing this, how it all comes together, is because by seeing this, you see that there's no person, no real person. This is why I tend to prefer to not use this the terminology of classical Dhamma teaching, because this is by now it's just slogan, and if we can use just common language that people can relate to in their ordinary life. So you don't need to be an expert in Buddhism or any ism. This is just commonplace, you know, that there is suffering and there is a cause to it, can do about it, and here's what you do, you know. If you're hypnotized and you suffer, then undo the hypnotism. You know, that's simple. You know, we don't need to complicate and give names to it and join clubs and.
Yeah, well, okay. How about saying a little bit more about intention, where you were a couple of hours ago? Can you do that?
Intention is direction. Intention has to do with proper understanding of why you're interested in this. What hunger are you attending? You know, so you set forth in this quest, with this question, you know, with a proper understanding from the beginning, and intention, motivation, like why you get into this in the first place. You want to be something, you know. You want to be a great person in the world. You know, what do you want? If you want the truth, no matter what it costs, even if it costs the belief you have that you are this real, then go for it. And this is decided at the beginning. It's like those 2 degrees in the beginning. That's the difference. But in the long run, they will take you to a whole different direction, a whole different destination.
Did you say this was decided at the beginning?
But not a decision of the mind. It's just attending to the hunger that is in the heart, for lack of a better word, if I have to localize it. Attending to a hunger that comes by default. It's not your hunger, it's a hunger of the human condition, you know?
Well, I think the question that came up earlier, as I understood it, that was long ago in the meeting, but I think the idea was, how does one, suppose I want to have that intention, the questioner seemed to be asking, how do I get it? Is there such a thing? And how does one get right intention? And my point of view is, I don't know, and I don't think anyone else does either. You can talk about it, but why should one person fall in love with an idea and another person doesn't? Who knows why? It's a mystery. I have no explanation for it. Stuff that seems so obvious to me, to other people, is a mystery. And if I try to show it to them, they go, what? And yet it's clear to me, you see? So somehow we're not all in the same condition. And that's a mystery. That's the intention. I mean, I don't see for me, but Sadamo, from my point of view, Robert, never had any intention. Robert was like just coping, you know, dealing with life and trying to maximize something. I don't know what it was anymore, but that just came to an end. But I don't think I ever thought I have to bring this to an end. I don't remember ever feeling that. It just happened. So would you comment on that?
Maybe the intention is a result of maturing, like a certain stage of ripeness, you know, when you're really not willing to keep fooling yourself, so you make sure you get right from the start, you know? So you make sure you have the right intention will take you to your destination. And I have to use these words.
No, I understand, but I get it. But I guess the distinction I'm trying to make here, because I think it fits the question. I'm just trying to understand that question on the level of the questioner, who was, you know, what she meant by putting it that way. So I agree with you. It's maturity. It's a kind of emotional maturity that guides you. If you happen into that emotional maturity, then you get a lot of helpful information. It's like having a wise grandmother in your head or something, right? That's very good. But can you choose to arrive at that point, or does that just happen? Is where I think the question rests. I don't have the answer. I think I came awake somehow. I'm willing to confess that or attest to it, but I don't think I ever caused it. I don't. If I ever did, I don't remember when that would have been. I can't. Yeah. And so to me, it only just feels like this getting hit by lightning or something. Some people get hit by it, and others live their lives, and they never think about these things. It's just not part of their reality. And they might think, I'm good because I didn't cheat on my wife, and Jesus will be waiting for me in heaven. And then I'll have everything I always wanted. I know people like that. And here I am in the same world. To me, that's an endless mystery.
What I meant by intention is the impulse, you know, that by default, part of our nature or what we are. You know, the moment, you know, a human being exists, you know, his drive is this intention. That's what I meant. You know, this intention. So now it's as if he has a question mark in his heart, and he's on his quest, you know, to answer that question mark. So he looks for himself outside of himself until through wisdom, through maturity, you know, the capacity he has to like the mind around to have a look at itself.
Part of confessing and saying I find myself awake in the present, which is how I started my book, part of that was the responsibility of actually being honest about what that entails. And to me, I don't feel that I participated in that awakening in any way. Robert, I really mean that. I think it's just a stroke of luck. I have no idea. I can't explain it, but I don't remember a single time when I made a so-called choice that could possibly have brought this understanding into being. I don't think I could have conceived of it before it occurred to me. It came as a total shock, a real shock. Wow, you know, wow, I'm not doing this. This is just happening. Oh shit, you know, wow. That's how it happened to me, honestly. And even though I had been interested in the philosophy and I'd read a bit of Vedanta and some Zen and also original Buddhism, and but when this thing happened to me, it wasn't anything like that. It had nothing to do with what I had been imagining at all. It was so ordinary that it just blew my mind. And then when I get out there with this understanding in this world, there's so much pushback. It's like I'm threatening people by just saying, this is no big deal. This is what you really are. It's already here. You see, as soon as you say that, it's like you frighten people, because I don't know why. Some of them are frightened, I guess, economically. They won't be able to sell anything if someone's giving it away. Maybe that's part of it. So what do you make of that, Saddam? Isn't it just kind of luck that one awakens or is born and has that curiosity, that drive, however you put it? Or do you think everyone has it?
Well, to me, the story is just appearance, and it can take any appearance. There's no formula, one size fits all. So
good
it's
answer.
just a shape.
Yeah, good answer. That's right. I agree with you. We have no way of unraveling. We can't unmake this omelet here. The omelet's here now. We have to eat it. We can't put the ingredients back in the, unscramble the eggs and put them back in the shell and take out all the onion and make the original onion. All that's water over the dam. Somehow, what I'm saying is somehow humanity has arrived at this nightmare. It really has. And even though I'm interested in awakening and all that, I like all that, but I also just like humanity. And I see that somehow we've gone a long way down the wrong road. And this thing looks like it's slipped out of control totally. It may have by now. I feel suffering for that state. I just feel it. And I'm not trying to not feel, I'm not trying to unfeel it. I actually feel it. And I like that I feel it. So to that extent, what I'm calling the person actually exists, and I honor it. I see that Robert is the kind of person who loves the wilderness and open skies and flowers in the spring and bees and all this, and really values all those things. And it's not just a dream. I understand it's dreamlike. You don't have to convince me. I'm preaching to the choir on that one. However, within this dream, the more I honor this dream, with that understanding that the dream is a dream, I find that participating in the dream in this wise way is the best possible medicine. That's where all the truth is. It's in the truth is in the dream. It's not outside the dream. The truth is in the dream.
Because what I hear is that what you're calling the dream is what is real moving. It's not other. It's not some other substance.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
Reality in movement. But you want to know reality. Then it can only be known in stillness, you know? But then there cannot be a you there to know it.
Yes.
You know? It doesn't mean it cannot be known. You know, it's
yeah, I don't know that. Yeah, my experience of it is I have no idea who and what I am, and I don't expect to ever know reality. I understand that there's a reality that's kind of like the perennial wisdom version of reality, where earthly affairs are but a dream, and meanwhile there's a non-material substrate to all this. I just don't think that way. I'm aware of all that teaching. I've read the Upanishads and all the rest, but I don't subscribe to it, nor do I doubt it. It's just beyond my pay grade. My whole thing has been joyful participation. And my seeking was to feel the joy and to feel the thrill of actually participating in this life. I don't mean in a sensual way. It could be sensual, it could be philosophical. It doesn't matter, that's not the point. But to not negate Robert, to have the courage to suffer Robert's mortality is what I'm getting at. To me, that is what I call awake. That I understand that I can't define this and there's no permanence in it and it's flowing onward. I understand that people take refuge in the idea that there's some permanent substrate. But I don't care about the permanent substrate. To me, the whole thing is a flow as far as I know. And I don't need to know more. I seem to have become this person, if you want to call it that, who has no questions. My questions just, they stopped. I saw the incredible beauty of this opportunity. I saw the beauty of that I had somehow been given a gift. Then I saw there's no problem to it. It's disposable. You can't do anything with it. So you may as well just experience it for what it is, as long as you can, you know? And the beautiful philosophy that someone like you or John Troy or even myself in my better moments brings to these conversations is part of that, but only a really small part. And I think
with what you just said now,
yeah,
to me that is enough. You know, like you spoke, and if I don't say anything else, it's perfectly fine. There's no need to say anything. Oh yeah, you think that, and I think this. It's like I don't care what, you know, because it's just words. Like I'll say in Greek, you say in French, the other one says in German. It will sound different, but how do I know at the essence is everything is okay? Because there's peace. If the peace is not speaking in different languages, it just is. You know, so I just don't get caught on the surface.
I feel the same way about you, Sadamo. I feel the same way about you. No, there's no questions about it. I think I like to turn these ideas over because these are the ideas that I'm asked about. And I seem to have some kind of, you know this, you've observed me for a couple of years on Facebook. Before we got to know one another, you were watching me for a while and you caught up some words I said and quoted them, and that's how we got to know each other. And then five years ago or more, the two of us were interviewed on this question about charging money for, yeah, but we didn't know each other at the time, but our answers were almost identical. So, you know, there's no questions about it. I like to, because I get support from you and John Troy, because somehow I seem to be in this role. I guess the book is part of it. Of even some of my spiritual teacher friends are mad at me now. They don't want to be because they kind of like me and they know that some of the things I say are probably worth hearing, but they're still pissed off because I'm calling this whole spiritual marketplace into question entirely. I have no use for it, no use at all. I never want to see some guru surrounded by adoring followers, you know, begging to be closer to the stage so they can get more kundalini. I never want to see that. So that's, and so I don't want to. Yeah.
There's demand.
Hey, wait a minute. I think what Robert just said in the last few minutes is really one of the finest things I've heard him say, particularly about the fact that when you are awake, when you are clearly there, the question of who you are and all that other stuff just isn't there. You're just completely there, and it's absolutely wonderful what's going on. And yet, most importantly, at the same time, he has not forgotten the suffering that is going on this planet, which is in the process of self-destruction. And that's one of the reasons I like him so much, especially compared to the standard non-dual bullshit, which is nobody suffers, everything is wonderful, we're all just happy beings, it's all BS, all coming from people who basically live on the west coast of California in extremely wonderful circumstances and have no fucking idea at all what real suffering is like. Voilà. Je l'ai dit en français, et puis ich kann auch das in Deutsch sprechen. Und ich denke, dass alle diese 13 sehr schöne Leute, und es freut mich viel, mit dieser Gruppe zu sein. J'aime beaucoup être avec ces gens ici. Voilà.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, I know that all of us here understand the limitations of language, and we really don't get hung up in that. We all really don't. We have more wisdom than that, everyone here at this meeting. I know that. This is, as I said, we're just chirping like birds on a wire. That's the human thing to do. For me, I have a quick mind and I like to be entertained, so I just like to hang out with smart people. That's my purpose. But
well, you're perfectly, you're absolutely right to do that.
Yeah,
that's the best thing about you.
But as to solving the world's problems or this vast suffering that I feel, and I'm not going to pretend I don't feel it. Maybe it's because I'm an old man and I have to leave anyway, but I see that the young have a hard road, very hard. We're about to see things on this planet that have never been seen before in the history of humankind. We're going to
You're
see.
right.
We're going to see mass killing over a few gallons of water and things like that. And there'll be mass starvation. We already know this. This isn't a prediction. This is just what we know must transpire. And I feel that every day. And even though I don't identify with being an American, I haven't lived in the US since the early 1990s. I left there in 93. And I'm a Mexican citizen and I live in this poor, humble country. I still regret what I see in American politics. I see this experiment in democracy being squeezed dry. And it's really happening.
I think this is a great, excuse me, Robert, I think this is exactly the same for me. You're a young guy, I'm 76, so you got a lot of catching up to do. And I left in 1980 because I saw what was happening, or just because I wanted to be somewhere maybe more civilized. But still, I see that pain, and it's so sad because of the importance of America in this planet to see these assholes running it into the ground who don't give a shit about any fucking thing at all, especially about what Mr. Gurdjieff called the organic life, you know, the film of organic life on this planet. And at the same time, I'm like you, I have this great joy at being present in a moment and watching a bee the other day at the garden stumbling into a flower all covered with pollen, and he was like in hysterics, and it was just fantastic. And or the frogs in my little pond. And at the same time, I carry with me also in my heart that sadness as a human being for what's being done here.
Yeah, well, to me, that seems natural enough. I don't try to explain that away. But I don't think, I think that when Sudamo talks about seeing, ending belief in the person, I don't really see that there's much confusion between the two of us on that score. You can understand human feelings of love of humanity and all of this in a more impersonal way. It doesn't have to be Robert Saltzman as a bleeding heart or something. I don't go there. I just understand that part of this weight that I feel is not personal to me. It's the weight of humanity. We're all aware of this field of ideas. A lot of them are murderous and hateful and all of this, and they're circulating around this planet. I find that in my awake state, I'm more aware of that than I ever was, not less. I'm also less caught up in it than I might have been at a previous time emotionally, but I don't negate it. And I guess that's what you're talking about, Sterling.
That's exactly the point I'm making. I mean, I think in that way we are very close in a way that when I'm talking now, I can look out at the river when waiting for the train and see the little heron waiting for a fish, and then also at the same time I haven't forgotten that other part. And I think that's the great danger in a lot of the spirituality bullshit. You know, you talk sometime about it being a business and so on and this and that, and one thing I wanted to correct you on once, which you said it's like a kind of like a business, except that real business is if you go in and you buy something, you get it. With this spirituality stuff, a lot of them, you go in and you buy it and you buy it and you buy it, but you never get it because they never, you know, it's like you go and you take the car home and you open it up and there's no engine under the hood. And that's a way of denial of humanness, a way of dismissal of the real reality. Whereas I think where you are, and I think I'm fairly close to you in that way, is a way of trying to deal with all of that at once, humbly, impersonally, and personally, and without a contradiction. And that, to me, is the beauty of this life.
Yeah, well, the contradiction is the suffering. And that's my attitude, is that I'm probably due some suffering. I think it might be part of this experience. I'm willing to. That's not the point. It's the experience that's the point, not the conditions. And as soon as we understand that, we're free. It's amazing. It doesn't take that long. Everyone thinks it's scary because then, you know, I won't exist. If I give up all my opinions, I won't exist anymore. You know, it's not like that. It just becomes a little different, but it's the same essence. It's just being played out differently. It's not a question of avoiding anything. See, I see spirituality as a scam a lot of the time, and it always has been. Priestcraft has been a scam through the centuries. And I mean, I have a Theravada monk sitting here, but I'm not insulting him because I know him. And I understand that he can put on whatever costume he needs. He moves so gracefully through this world and it's kind to everyone. It's not a problem. He can just do whatever he likes. That's beautiful. No worries. So he's not, if I criticize spirituality, I'm never criticizing someone who understands how to inhabit that world. It's beautiful.
I do the same in a slightly different way because I do from inside the gates.
Yeah, you say more about that, Sudamo, please. Expand upon that, please, if you will.
I mean, the same way that others in this conversation found themselves, you know, speaking about these things. You know, I noticed that when you speak from the outside, you know, it's not accepted because you're not wearing the uniform. You know, so people, oh, he's an outsider. What does he know? You know, and to deal with that kind of experience, I just went inside, got the uniform, and now I get to say what I could be saying from outside. Well, it came inside, and I'm saying it from inside. Instead of fighting the beast from the outside, you let the beast swallow you and then fight the beast from inside its belly, you know? Because
Yeah.
what I'm saying now is what I was saying before, but now people listen to me because I present myself as a monk.
So you're a rare kind of monk, though. You're a
I'm
actual.
not a monk. I'm not a monk. I'm presenting myself
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
express this, whatever I'm saying, you know?
This is,
You know, the mind responds to form, you know? And so understanding its ways and its nature, so I can speak its language.
you mean it, are you saying that if I would now put on robes, I could say the same shit I say all the time and no one would throw rocks at me? That'd be great. They say, oh, you know, okay, sadhu, could I get away with that act? Because the one I've got now, people will want to throw bombs at me and shit. The spiritual teachers are really pissed off. I was the flavor of the month for a while, but now some of the ones who liked it at first, really, the implications are sinking in.
No one can be unanimity.
No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't trade a word of the abuse I've been receiving. It's so stimulating.
You're not good for the free market.
Oh,
I have to go, Robert.
it's been great having you here. Thank you so much.
It's just lovely, lovely to hear you, and nice also to meet your friend Sudamu, who I didn't know before, and I'm glad to see Troy is still around and helping to control his alcohol consumption by breaking the glass so that it holds almost nothing. So we'll see you soon, huh?
That's a pretty good line.
Okay.
Thanks, Sterling. Take good care of yourself, man.
You too, man. I'll send you a few pictures from the garden. It's going well.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Say hi to Tanya for me.
I will. Be well. Be well.
Bye.
Robert.
Yes, Danny.
Hey, can I ask you something?
Yes.
Last meeting, you were speaking about, you told me your own awakeness is hidden by an agenda. And then you were saying that my agenda was like, I wanted to be you, or I wanted to be like, I was looking at Muji. I was projecting my own awareness into another person. And, you know, I have to find my own aliveness. So I just wanted to ask, because I heard you guys speaking about intention before, and I just wanted to see what the difference is between agenda and intention. And
well,
as I see it, there's nothing I can do about neither of those things. Like, you know, if there's an itch here, and if I'm like, you know, seeking something and I'm projecting it onto other people, I don't have a say in that so much.
no, but you see, you're ruling out a very important factor. And
yeah.
the factor is that if you interact with me and I say something to you, then you see things differently. It's not that you chose to see them differently. It's that the words I said actually massaged your brain in some way that changed the way you see. These human interactions are actually occurring. I mean,
of course,
when we say it's all a dream, yes, that's true. And on a macroscopic scale, that may be true. But on a microscopic scale, we all influence. If I didn't know Sudamo personally, I would now be a different person. Part of what I am now is because I have communicated with this man and took in some of his matchless beauty. I really did. And I think he did that with me too. And see, once you do those, that's what we have. So I'm not telling you not to be influenced. What I'm telling you is it's your spiritual authority upon which you must rely. There's no choice in the matter. If you project it outwardly, all is lost.
Yeah.
You'll never get it back again unless lightning strikes, and it hardly ever does. So the initial gesture is don't give it away. And if you've started to, take it back quick.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is very simple. I am manifesting a certain level of wisdom here, to be sure. And I think that when you hear me, you think, wow, Robert's pretty groovy. He's got this thing, he's got all the balls in the air. It's very nice.
It's resonating with me.
Yes, and that's all good because I'm being honest, but there's no imitation possible. It's only you. As long as you imagine that someone else has this thing figured out and you just have to learn what that is, you'll be looking in the wrong place.
Mm-hmm.
The right place is in your own quiet, in your own, whatever that looks like. It doesn't matter. You have to just sit quietly at some time and look into yourself. And that's where, very quietly, and be alone sometimes, really alone. And be sad and whatever else you have to feel and worried, let all that arise. See, we have to, and then we're inquisitive in the right way. Not that Robert has the answer and you have to learn it. It doesn't work that way. And I have to keep saying that because I never wanted this role. I never wanted it. To be the one who speaks in words like this. So I keep trying to warn people, yes, but it's really not about what I say. It's really about what you, so if anything I say influences you, great, be influenced for a moment and then walk on, understand?
Yeah.
I got into this role because my old friend Robert Hall told me years ago that I was a teacher of non-duality and I should be sharing this with the world, you know, and I didn't want to. I've been getting along fine for years being a psychotherapist. I like to keep it on that. I still like to keep it on that level, as you observe, you know, feelings and how to manage ordinary events, you know, illness and death and all that. How do we really, not theoretically. And then somehow it morphed into writing a book and everything, but I don't have any, there's no vast teaching. There really isn't. The only teaching I have is that myself is a ghost in the machine. So if you keep on living a ghostly existence, there'll never be the end to craving. There'll never be an end to craving if you're a hungry ghost. It can't happen. The craving ends when you aren't a hungry ghost. When you're whatever it took to feed you, whatever that is, you got fed, and now you say, I've had a nice meal. Now I wash my bowl and put the chopsticks on the bowl in the drainer by the sink, and I sit down and I'm just happy I had this meal. And that's the entire practice. There isn't anything else.
This seeker, though, this is the ghost. The ghost in the machine is kind of the guy who's like, I mean, like, that's the guy who's like in the way, right?
I know, boy, it's, nothing is getting in the way. This is it.
Yeah.
No, you don't, no, don't say, yeah, this is it. The you that's hearing these words is it. That's the real self. Not the personality, not the ego self, the awareness that can hear sounds and understand something. That is you. It's a miracle that something like that exists. This is what Sudamu, at his first statement at the beginning of the meeting, he said that there's not only awareness, but self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
That's, the self-awareness is you in the best sense.
I think he also said that the ego came out of that.
Yeah, the ego does come out of it.
Self-image or whatever.
Right, but see, that this mistake is terrible in spirituality. They always talk about vanquishing the ego, like you have to get your foot on its neck and start beating on it or something. It's not like that. Your ego has to be here. It's just that everyone else has an ego too. It's not that big a deal. Don't make a pet out of it. It's just a human. We all have egos. So what? You know, we all have hands and feet too. That's just the way it goes. It's not the essence. There is, what I'm saying, and Sudamu was saying the same thing, and I know that John Troy would say the same thing. There's something to all this. And you have to find out what that is, not someone explains it to you. That won't do it. And what Sadamo's teaching, which I really love, is that that happens in silence. He's right. So a day that has quiet in it will be a good day.
I heard that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, sir. I really encourage you. You're doing great.
I wanted to ask also, because I didn't see the beginning. I will come and see it after. Did Sadamo speak about his own journey, so to say, what his background and so on?
I'm going to speak. I'm going to speak for him here. He doesn't want to be. He doesn't want to be interviewed. He's happier to just speak to you.
Okay.
About what's here before all of us in this very moment.
Okay. So let me ask Sadamo then. Do you have a practice in a sense, and do you recommend that practice to someone else?
Boy, that's a sneaky way to ask the same question. That was deaf. I'm sure he will answer you.
You see, through the mind, you're having experiences and watching the world outside, but the mind can watch itself, you know? So, for lack of a better word, you want to practice something, practice using the mind to look at itself, understand its nature, understand its ways, what it does, you know? And in this process of, in this seeing what it is and how it behaves, you know, you get to understand that there's no self to it. This is not you, because you're observing objects, you know? But the observer of the objects is also an object. But the only difference that he's the one everything else holds on to, you know? But thoughts are objects. I is also an object, you know? But it's around this I that everything else floats around, you know? They happen in relation to this I. But this I is as thought as everything else, you know? So by letting the mind look at itself, you can start to understand its nature and understand its behavior, its predictability, and what it does. And by default, you realize, oh, obviously this is not me, you know? I can see it, and I can see how I see it, how it's seen, you know? And then at this point, there's no I, but if I am here speaking, I have to use this conventional language, you know? But this is a natural thing. So we say practice. It's like, oh, you're going to start doing something. This is in harmony with nature. It doesn't feel like you're doing anything. It's just a direction of your attention.
It's, in a sense, it happens on its own, right?
Yeah, it's like you change the direction of the searchlight. It's looking outside, you know, and it's going on. Like you don't think because you want. Thoughts happen, right? So you turn the searchlight inside, you know, and let it do its thing. The mind will look at itself. So you get to know itself, you know, you use that because mind is instrument of knowing, you know, but the knowledge, it doesn't stay stored in the mind because understanding is just wisdom. It's a knowing, it's not information, you know? So,
thank you.
So I'm going to have to leave. I'm getting tired. It's been a wonderful meeting. I'm so grateful to everyone for being here. That's what made it wonderful, really. And it's great to have a meeting of minds, you know, where we get to bat these ideas around. I enjoy it very much in good company, which we do have here. So I wish you all farewell. If you want to continue with the meeting, I'll leave the room open. But I'm bowing out, and I wish you all very well now and forever. Sayonara.
I would like to express my appreciation for everyone being here also, and some faces that I've seen before, and some new faces. And basically I have to go also here in Thailand. It's midnight, so I still have some things to do, get some rest. But I really appreciate that we came together, and I learned quite a lot, but hearing people I admire. And I guess I learned also about how to take part in this kind of meeting. It's the first time I do anything like this.
Oh, Sadamo, you were great. You're absolutely brilliant. It's beautiful. I'm so glad you made this effort, because the things that you had to say were really very beautiful. I learned quite a bit from you tonight, and today, your night, my day.
It is what it is. It's just like,
That's right.
It's part of a movie. It's something that happened in this movie I'm watching, and all kinds of things happen, moments of joy, tragedies.
Yeah, it's hard to accept compliments. We all have that problem, I think. But you've been great. You're absolutely stupendous. Your rap here exceeded my every expectation, honestly, and I had high expectations to begin with. But truly, that was
glad to see Danny.
Most illuminating. Most illuminating.
Glad to see Danny, that I saw a previous video, and Marcus that was asking the questions. And I see Paul here, hasn't said anything, but hopefully we get a chance to speak in the future. And Martina, that comes across as a huge heart she has.
Paul Canal. Hello, Paul.
Just like a son, a son.
Hi, guys.
Vibes, So.
Yeah.
Say hello, Paul. Say hello, Paul Canal.
Together.
Oh, are you talking about me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
I see
Sadamo, whilst you're here, I guess I just want to say, whilst I was going, my dad's much better now. He's out of hospital, but it was actually thanks to Robert that I followed the lead and came across you on Facebook and read a couple of your posts. Mm. And whilst Dad was in hospital and I was standing out there, and he'd been in there for 3 weeks, and I was driving him back and forth with the family, some of your posts, particularly ones about death and impermanence, and just what you said was just spot on for me. And about being in that peaceful place. I just really appreciated. I've appreciated this last couple of years with Robert, and then coming across you as well. It was only about 2 months ago, but some of the things that you just write, very short quips in your post, have been tremendous. And I just wanted to say thank you very much. But it's like Robert, John, and you, and everyone else. It's just been amazing. So yeah, I just wanted to express that, and yeah, thank you so much.
This alone, what you just told me, it's enough to justify, this story I'm witnessing. So this alone, it's enough. For me, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And that something I said could turn your heart in a good direction. It's, to me, it's the realization of why I'm here posing as this that I'm posing, as a friend dressed like this. It's just to see these things happen,
Oh, absolutely, yeah. In fact, you just answered a little question I'd had when you were talking earlier to Danny about sitting and turning the direction of awareness back within. But then you just answered that by, for me, it's, in a way, it's, as John has also said, that it's the appearances aren't what really connect. It's it's what's the stillness that connects, which is not separate from the appearances. But what I got an answer to just a minute ago was sitting, listening to you, Robert, and John, and everyone else, a turning actually happens all by itself. So there's nothing that I really needed to do in order to make that turning within happen. And I get that turning within when I'm sitting here listening, which I've just been doing. I've been basically speechless the whole time. So this meeting would be my favorite Zoom, and it's been just brilliant. And the clarifications and the affirmings have been brilliant for me. So, and so I just wanted to thank everyone from the bottom of my heart for this. This has been rare, and I'll be watching it again. So I hope to meet you all. If I don't ever get to meet you, at least I'm sharing that stillness, which I wasn't sure how to turn to, but I'm getting the answer that just sitting here, that turning within happens by itself. And with everything else going on in my life, that stillness in me is the stillness in you, and the stillness in you is the stillness in me. And so that's basically as simple as that for me. And so, look, I just wanted to appreciate. And I knew, like, you're sitting there in monk's robes, but I don't see the monk. I didn't see it. I didn't see the monk when I first found you on Facebook with Robert, and it was thanks to Rob that it led me to you. So, and the clarifications, Robert's got a different way of speaking. You have a different way of speaking. John has a different way of speaking. Martina has. Danny has. Everyone has. But you're all kind of saying the same thing. And I just really appreciate it, everyone. So thanks very much for this. This has been rare for me, and it's the stillness that turning for me was answered. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul.